Shalom, shalom, Mishpaka. I pray all is well with each and every one of you. Welcome back to the channel. Please, if you would like to support, you can always join the membership. Um, and you can always support yourself by one of these journals. I just released the self-examination. Very good, very thorough. It is all the way with scriptures, prayers, Hebraic roots to the words, accountability, just time of reflection. It is high time, the higher we get in these last days, that we make sure we self-examine. The word says we must seek our own soul salvation with fear and trembling. And if we don't be accountable to ourselves and do that honest, ugly, difficult work, we deceive ourselves. You know, Yahuwah says in his word that if we say we never sin, we lie. If we say um, we're good, like we lie to ourselves. There's nothing good about us. The only thing good about us is our ability to die to our flesh and willfully submit to Yahusha. That's all that's good in us. We choose not to do that, we ugly. Because Yahuwah ain't looking for us in our own flesh. He's looking for us submitted to Yahusha in the Ruach HaKodesh. And without that, we will continue to remain in the cycles and in the kingdom of darkness. So, and then I also have the Psalms of Hope. That one's been out. If you have not watched the series, this goes along with that. It's an excellent resource for that, so you can get the most out of the series. But praise Yahuwah. And then I have the memberships. I want to build a community of people who want to operate in love, accountability, and mercy as we get closer and closer to the end. Community is so important. But praise Yahuwah. And then if you just want to do monetary donations, I have a Cash App at KhasadYah. And then I also have PayPal at KhasadYah@gmail.com. And I appreciate each and every one of you who support the work. Yahuwah is Thub, he's great, and he is our provider and a waymaker for us all. And as we help one another, Yahuwah continues to overflow his baraka towards us. And today I am going to talk about borderline personality disorder. I touched on last week the similarity of complex PTSD and how some people say it's very similar to borderline personality disorder. So I wanted to dive into that a little bit. But I'm most importantly today going in the scriptures. All of these mental illnesses I am talking about, there's a reason why the demonic have access. And we look at our flesh, we look in the natural realm, we look in the mental, but we're not looking in the spiritual like we should. Let's do the spiritual work that we may break free spiritually. Because if we are free spiritually, we will start to be free mentally and physically. A lot of times people aren't completing the entirety of transformation. They'll hold on to one. Okay, like people are super into their health, physical, right? They're holding on to that physical, but they're mentally and spiritually bound. Or someone's super spiritual, but they ain't taking care of their health and their mental state. So it's about complete and whole healing. That's what Yahuwah wants from us. And as we are awakened to the truth, we should see transformation that reflects that. And if we are still bound mentally, then we still haven't overcome the way that we need to overcome. And as I talked about last week, and I wanted to reference, through these days, these last days, darkness is increased. So I mentioned, like, okay, I struggle with suicide. I've had PTSD. Most of us have. So when we know that we have these weaknesses, the enemy knows that as well. So when you go through trial and tribulations, the enemy's going to be trying to plant those thoughts in your head. Oh, why don't you just kill yourself? Putting those seeds. Oh, you ain't nothing. Oh, getting anxious and worried. All of that is how the enemy plays on you through those thoughts, because he knows that's your weakness too. But when you are Yahushas, it's our job to cast down those thoughts. It's our job to fast and pray against that, because we know we are overcomers through Yahushua HaMashiach, because he is our well that never runs out. So we have to really walk in that on a daily basis, sometimes a moment by moment basis, because the enemy is trying to get in wherever he can. So it's up to us to uproot every access of darkness that is still lingering within. So let me get right on to it. Today we are talking about BPD. And as I said, I wanted to bring out the comparisons and my thoughts on it, because a lot of it seems very, very similar. So I took a couple of notes, and I'm going to just read it from my phone because it's just easier. So a lot of things. So we know PTSD, you have agitation, nervousness, and anxiety, problems with concentrating and thinking, problems with memory, headaches, depression and crying spells, suicidal thoughts or attempts, mood swings, obsessive compulsive tendencies, panic episodes, paranoia, shakiness, substance abuse, flashbacks, hypervigilance, nightmares, sleep disturbances. And then, so when I looked this up, can you have BPD and complex BPD? They said PTSD and BPD often occur comorbidly. So they often are occurring together. In a group of individuals receiving inpatient psychiatric treatment, 79%, that is a lot, had both. So that makes sense. And then when I have this, it's complex PTSD versus BPD. Well, BPD people are more impulsive, fear of abandonment, and I think PTSD as well. Inappropriate anger, extreme mood swings, and unstable relationships. And we noticed when we talk about PTSD that these things was there as well. And then the commonalities: emotional dysregulation, self-destructive behavior, self-harm, suicidal tendencies, dissociation, paranoia, negative self-image, feelings of emptiness, and a sense of numbness. Nightmares, somatic distress for CPTSD, hypervigilance, sense of threat, avoidance, flashbacks, unwanted memories. And I think all that could go together. A lot of times BPDs are acting out because of these things and they don't know how to voice it. They just run from it. So that is an avoidant behavior. So to me, more than likely, they're probably the same ruach behind it. And I just wanted to touch on that briefly. So the first time, I'll tell y'all a story about it, because BPD is very, I never seen anything like it. The first time I seen it was about five years ago. I mean, you really don't know if someone has BPD until you know them intimately, until you are very close to them. BPD relationships are, they're usually people going to, there's different levels to it. There's people who have these conditions who are functional, and there's people who are not functional. So one of the major signs, if you are looking at a person at a distance, is how they constantly change, constantly will go from job to job. That is a major sign that a person is unstable, but possibly has BPD. This is if you do not know them intimately. This is why when you are seeking relationships, it's important to see, like, okay, so where you been, how you been. If a person's job hopping so much, it's a warning sign. And it's not that, you see the people on TV who have all this great ambitions trying to do something great. With BPD, it's their mindset changes so frequently and they get bored very easily. So they can't stay at a job for too long. It gets boring for them. And, one of my first encounter was through a relationship. And I was working at a staffing agency. And this person knew a family member of mine. And then I got in this relationship with them. And so when at first because like I said, I have my degree in psychology. It's like for me to not understand something trips me out. It will be, kind of like when you deal with a narcissist. It's like you're trying to figure out what's going on. You're trying to make sense of it. And I remember, like, how can a person say all these loving things to me? And then the next minute they're saying the complete opposite. And then I think when I looked it up, and then BPD is what popped up. And that is how, I had that experience of dealing with someone with such extreme chaos and emotional regulation. They have hot and cold behaviors, but the root of it is can be genetic and from trauma. The times that I've seen this, oftentimes it could be generational trauma. So this person really never had, and that's why it's so hard when you are in a relationship with someone like this, because your heart almost breaks for them, because you know that a lot of it isn't their fault. It's like they were born into it. It's like their circumstances were so jacked up that it's like they never had a chance. And that's kind of what I'm like, man, they didn't have a chance. Let me try to love them through this. But unless a person wants help, the only thing you can do is pray for a person. And that's what I'm learning and learned the hard way. You cannot help people who don't want to help themselves. If a person don't want to help themselves, all you can do is pray that Yahuwah give them the mindset to want to help themselves, that Yahuwah have mercy while they're going through the storm and things of that nature. Because other than that, our help is not going to be accepted, especially if you're in a close relationship. It's often denied. And then there's moments that they will say, oh, yes, I know I need help. I'm sorry. But that's just a fleeting moment. And the next moment will be the complete opposite. This is not natural, and these are because they don't have control. The soul of that person has lost control of its own body. So now it's embodied by the demonic. And then the thing is, what's crazy is how we have thoughts, and this is for everyone. We'll have thoughts, but we'll take those thoughts as our own. But oftentimes those thoughts aren't your own. You are being spiritually attacked, but you have been deceived to believing that, oh, these are just my thoughts. No, they're not your thoughts. You are in some deep, deep demonic control. There's deliverance that needs to take place. The part that messes us up is that when we have been conditioned from the world, we now are increasing the hold that the enemy has. And I brought that out about sin and sexual immorality, drugs, anything that we're doing that continues that covenant, anger, all these things continue the covenant with the kingdom of darkness. So as long as that covenant is there, these demonic will always keep possession. So let's talk about the signs and symptoms of BPD. So there's frantic efforts to avoid real or perceived abandonment, intense mood swings lasting hours or days, impulsivity and risky behavior. And let's talk about that. Impulsivity, like you're impulsive, not dependable. One moment you want to do this, the next is something else. Risky behavior, drugs, sex with people sleeping around, not using, like being very risky, speeding on the highways, um, doing things that can risk your life and risk others' lives. Unstable, intense relationships. This is the hugest sign, because when you're with someone with BPD, it's like it's a type of drug. It's like ecstasy, and then you have the come down and the reality of hate. Is those extreme emotions. So a lot of people who are end up with BPD, they stay in the relationship because the extreme of the intensity of the love when it's there. Narcissism is a little bit different, as it's like love bombing. But when someone has BPD, like their love for you is, it's like, no, I believe it was real what they said. And it was real what they said. But then the opposite of that, it's like hatred is just as like Like 1 minute is so extreme love for you, the next is extreme hatred for you. So it's like trips you out. Like, what is going on? It's a yin and a yang in the person. So that is clearly a sign that they don't have no control of a stable thought or stable mindset, and that someone else and entities, multiple probably, are in control. Self-injuries or suicidal threats or behaviors. One of the things that BPD do, they'll use like, oh, I might as well just kill myself, and like say it, but sometimes they don't do anything. Sometimes they actually do say stuff and then end up in the hospital. Um, but sometimes it's more said when they don't want to deal with stuff. I might as well do this, because they just say it to make the other person feel some type of way. They don't want to deal with their problems. It's a way of coping for them. Acts of self-sabotage. So if everything is going good, they will create drama. They will do things to destroy the good, because it's like they fear losing, having a good attachment, so they'll destroy attachment, but they want attachment. It's a very unfortunate psychological twisting of the mind. So it's like you want attachment, but you're scared, so you destroy it before the other person can destroy it, but then you want it. And that's kind of the chaos that surrounds borderline personality disorder. Chronic feelings of emptiness, inappropriate, intense anger or rage. So you can be talking about something, if you disagree with the person, next thing you know, they're flipping out. It's like, whoa, it ain't that serious. To them, it becomes that serious. And that's also demonic anger. So they have no control. They're just going a straight, just black, almost like a blackout rage, get all worked up over something small. This is BPD. Um, Unstable sense of self, including changing goals and values. So they'll mirror, and this is kind of similar with narcissism a little bit. But what happens? How does this happen in the beginning? They never had a good sense of self. I think that's the root that we need to discuss. It's similar to narcissism, where they're like, oh, narcissists are just insecure inside. True. But in this situation, the BPD never had a good sense of self. They never knew who they are within themselves. So like for me, I know that I value being an honest person inside. So whether I am with you or I'm not with you, I value being an honest person. I feel horrible if I do something against that moral. In borderline personality disorder, they don't have a good sense of self. So they'll say things, but they're not able to match it within. So like, oh yeah, I believe, like they'll mirror somebody's values, but their values aren't within. They'll copy a value externally, but internally they don't have that value. And that is because spiritually, the soul is bound. Spiritually, demonic is ruling. So they're unable to be honest. They're unable to walk in integrity, because internally, the demonic are like, we don't walk in integrity. We're ruling here. The soul has not been able to attach itself to the person properly. It's probably imprisoned. And I'm going to talk about this, how biblically, what happens. Yah was not playing when he gave his word. And when we've done certain sins, the consequences to that sins are being cut off, your soul being cut off. And that didn't just mean their soul, and as far as our ancestors, but generationally, people have been born with their souls cut off and imprisoned. And it's until we turn back to Yahuwah that he could set the captives free and their souls can be restored to be able to function properly. People aren't teaching that. So we're only hearing that, oh yeah, you just need to stop sin. But this is a deeper curse that is going on. which mental illness is usually generational. Um, Dissociation and feelings of detachment. So, like I said, one moment they can be, oh, I love you so much. The next, it's like they don't even know you. And you're like, what happened? To where a person can say they love me, and then 5 seconds later, I don't mean nothing to them. That's demonic. That's the inability to connect because of, like I said, that imprisoned soul. So they don't have no control. Trouble trusting others. They can't trust others because they can't trust themselves. If you have no control over your mind, will, and emotions, you couldn't trust yourself. So how could you ever think it possible to trust others? So signs and symptoms of BPD. Efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment, such as rapidly initiating intimate, physical, emotional relationships, or cutting off communication with someone in anticipation of being abandoned. So, like I mentioned, they will create, so they quickly get in these relationships, but they'll quickly cut them off. Like if you see something that they did wrong, you try to talk to them about it, they'll just cut you off because they're like, oh, you ain't gonna abandon me, I'm abandoning you. So that's how they cope. There's no proper coping mechanisms. And we talk about the inappropriate intense anger, problems controlling anger, difficulty trusting, which is sometimes accompanied by irrational fear of other people's intentions, self-harming behavior, recurring thoughts of suicidal behaviors or threats, chronic feelings of emptiness, distorted and unstable self-image or sense of self, a pattern of intense and unstable relationships with family, friends, and loved ones, often swinging from extreme closeness and love, so idealization, to an extreme dislike or anger devaluation. So when they love you, they're putting you on this pedestal, and then when they don't love you, they literally devalue you, disregard you, and you nothing. And that's kind of similar in that sense to narcissism. Intense and highly changeable moods with each episode lasting from a few hours to a few days. Feelings of dissociation, such as feeling cut off from oneself, seeing oneself from outside one's body, or feelings of unreality. And that should let you know right there, okay, if you're seeing yourself outside your body, you don't really have control of yourself, that's demonic. That should let you know that's demonic. Impulsive and often dangerous behaviors such as spending sprees, unsafe sex, some substance abuse, reckless driving, and binge eating. Note these may be signs of mood disorders. And that could be mood disorders also, not BPD, they say. Um, and then what else do I want to read? So a lot of people with BPD are not diagnosed, but I'm just going to read some statistics about it. Mostly women get treatment with this. Mostly women have been diagnosed with this. There's men who have BPD as well. But a lot of men, especially men of color, don't go for treatment. So life with borderline personality disorder, if you it's 1.4% of adults in the U.S. who have BPD. That's over 3.6 million people. Um, and then so people who have it describe it as an emotional burden to them and everyone in their life, being constantly worried, fearful, and suspicious. It's hard to know who I actually am versus who my BPD wants me to be. That you see who I am versus my BPD. This lets you know there's another entity there. It's like, oh, is this me or my depression or this me? When we're making dissociations like that, it's showing you that there's a spiritual, all mental illness is spiritual. And they describe it as an exhausting and frustration trap that I can't escape, lashing out at loved ones, followed by guilt and fear that they're upset with me. So it's that constant up and down cycle. Having been so some of their behaviors can seem manipulative. They're trying to say that it's not intentional for them to be manipulative, and they're emotionally unpredictable, which can lead to abuse, but is no excuse for abuse. And So people have described BPD as untreatable, and now researchers are saying that there's treatment for it. The true treatment is YAHUSHA. Um, and I think I've read what the signs are. Okay, so I'm going to give you what is the technical definition of borderline personality disorder. It's a complex and debilitating neurological disorder marked by impairment in regulating emotions that leads to impulsivity, distortions of thought, identity disturbances, stormy interpersonal relationships, anger outbursts, self-harm, and suicidality. How does it feel to live with BPD from a patient's perspective? It is like driving an emotional vehicle that is accelerating and one cannot hit the brakes. It's like riding an emotional roller coaster with ups and downs multiple times in one day. It involves intense shifting feelings that can lead to terrible emotional pain and even hopelessness. How is BPD affecting our population? 6 people out of every 100 develop BPD in his or her lifetime. Men and women are equally affected by BPD. 10% of those with BPD end their lives by suicide. Up to 45% of individuals with BPD attempt suicide during the course of their illness. 50 to 80% of those diagnosed also have a substance abuse disorder. Um, so they said, what are the societal issues people suffering from BPD face? BPD is a highly stigmatized mental illness. A lot of people don't have education or understanding about it. BPD, people who suffer from it are often labeled as acting out, difficult, or manipulative. BPD is often not recognized by clinicians as a legitimate mental health diagnosis. This lack of recognition leads to misdiagnosis and perpetuates the stigma, which can be harmful to patients. Although there are effective treatments, many parts of the country lack trained BPD therapists. BPD gets a 1/10 the funding of bipolar disorder from federal agencies, yet it is as prevalent in society. BPD is often not a billable diagnosis and therefore does not get covered by health insurance. So, more than likely, people with BPD are often misdiagnosed because people need to get paid. Why is it important to have compassion for individuals with BPD? Individuals with BPD are typically deeply ashamed of their behavior and are in real distress. It makes it easier to validate their feelings and experiences of emotional distress while presenting other options for expressing their experiences and for positive coping. BPD is a brain disorder. The part of the brain which possesses emotions is not functioning properly. With therapy, people with BPD can get better, but it takes time, support, and hard work. So, inner work is essential, both spiritual, mental, and even physical. Um, so oftentimes people get BPD by some people say being exposed to long-term fear or distress as a child, being neglected by one or both parents. You could also have genetic precursors that can cause you to have BPD. And then people with BPD, there are 4 major signs: emotional instability, disturbed patterns of thinking or perception, cognitive distortions or perceptual distortions, impulsive behavior, intense and unstable relationships. So, intense fear of instability and abandonment. I think that is one of the huge things of BPD, as this abandonment that they have, they can't be alone. Like, they literally can't be alone. So, if they ain't with somebody, they're going to be with somebody. They will not stop their whatever sexual encounters, sexual relationships. They need to have that. They don't like being by themselves. So, that is the huge thing of BPD. And that is a huge sign of BPD. So if you see someone who doesn't have any control of their relationship, or if they're like leaving a relationship and they won't give themselves time to heal or recover from that relationship, that is a sign of potential BPD. Because you have to, person needs to be able to heal. Person needs to be able to restore themselves. But when a person refuses to do that, that's a sign that there's a demonic thing playing that they can't. It's like they have to spread that chaos in people's life. They have to feed that demonic entity. So one of the things that I wanted to bring out in BPD people have is the black or white thinking. And a lot of times you don't know what that is until you see it. And it will trip you out. Like I said, it's extreme. Like they don't have the ability. It's the one extreme or the next is no gray. So black and white thinking is the inability to see things in gray. The clinical term is splitting and is a destructive thought process that results in chaos and failed interpersonal relationships. When a person thinks in black and white, they can only see the two extremes of a person. Either they are all good or they are all bad. So when they love you, they're telling you how great you are, and you're like, oh, thank you so much. When they're mad at you, it's like they just like dog you, devalue, trash you. They don't see nothing good about you. All they can do is harbor on all the bad. So this is black or white thinking. This is what you'll experience with people with BPD. They cannot see the spectrum of gray. Like, yeah, this person has really great traits. And they also have some traits I don't like. That like most of us can. We can see like, yeah, I didn't like that, but they did have some good qualities. BPD is unable to do that. Individuals who are prone to black and white thinking tend to see the person either as completely good or completely bad, inflexible in changing minds, impulsive and destructive, impulsive behavior, end up in paranoia as a result of not being able to process emotions in the gray side, jump to conclusions without proper analysis of the situation. Learn, so these are things that they would have to develop. And it's also called dichotomy, dichotomy, dichotomous, there you go. It's called dichotomous thinking, also known as black or white thinking. So it's just looking at life in absolute extremes, which contributes to interpersonal problems and to emotional behavior instability. Dichotomous thinking. And then, so this is what happens when you're in a relationship, people may ask questions. They'll shut down when questioned or get extremely angry. They have perfectionism and procrastination, and the absence of questions and listening. So sometimes it's like some of the signs you have to look out for are when like you're talking to someone and you notice that they don't really confide or talk about certain things. Those are signs, you know, they don't like talking about their past. They don't like just being open and transparent. Those are signs of someone who has that BPD. They either magnify or minimize situations. So like, you know, it's the extreme. Like, oh, you may have done something sometimes. Oh, you always magnify. And then when you tell them something, they'll minimize, right? So it's always those two extremes. And then I wanted to talk about this on a spiritual level because these can be very tumultuous. As you see, BPD, complex PTSD, they can be very tumultuous in a relationship. It can destroy, like, cause a lot of damage, and not just their lives, but all people lives they're around. And as we are coming back to this truth, a lot of it we know is based on trauma. But like I said, in this situation, it could be because of genetic factors as well. Complex PTSD is based on trauma alone. BPD can be a plethora of things. And when I was asking y'all, like, the notes that I should have, what he gave me is the word. And when he made Adam, he made him a living soul. What we don't realize is through this fall of man, through the fall of sin and our disobedience, whether it's us now or generations before us, we have been disembodied in different areas of our life where we are not in the wholeness like our forefather Adam. So I'm going to go to Genesis 2:7 and just read that as a reference. I highly recommend you watching The Fragmented Mind. If you would like more information regarding this, I'm just going to touch on it briefly. And it says, and Yahuwah the Lord formed the man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living soul. This is the whole soul at that time. This is literally the breath of Yah being breathed into us. So we did not have that fragmented mind that we have today. And it's over generations of rebellion, of disobedience, of sin that we are now in these extreme conditions. And we see biblically, when YAHUSHA was on the scene, there was demonization, and he was able to deliver them. And this is what we're seeking in this hour, in this season, that YAHUSHA deliver his people, that he restore us back to our right mind, that he set the captives free. That's what he came for. But deliverance and salvation is the children's bread. And I even pray sometimes, just give me the breadcrumbs. Just like the Gentile woman who was like, he said, basically, I came for the children of YAHUSHA. She goes, just give me the breadcrumbs. And he's like, I've never seen so much faith in all YAHUSHA. We got to humble ourselves before Yah. Whether you are Hebrew by blood or not, it doesn't matter. It's the faith that makes us whole through YAHUSHA. And we need to have that type of faith to believe Yah to make us whole, to believe Yah to make our family members whole, to believe Yah for complete restoration. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood. And the world has convinced us these disorders are flesh and blood, and they not. We need to get to the root. We need to turn to Yahuwah and get to repentance and ask him to heal us in all areas of our lives. Leviticus, and I'm going to go to Leviticus 18-29. I'm referencing scriptures here because, like I said, we see with Adam and Hua, they fell. They had children. Then our genealogy goes down to Noah, the flood, all these things, eventually leading us to Yashrael, Yaqub, and his genealogy, right? They end up in Egypt, which Mitzrayim in Hebrew. We get delivered out of Mitzrayim, end up in the wilderness. Yah speaks to Moshe, and he gives him the Torah for the people to live by, to protect themselves, because Yah wanted to create a nation of kings and priests, a set apart people. You are unto me, you are my people unto myself, right? This is what Yah says. And as a result of disobeying, things can happen to you. So these are some of the things that I wanted to read about how our souls end up cut off, what that means today. Leviticus 18:29. For whosoever should commit any of these abominations. So this is talking about, I'm going to go to 28, that the land spew not out of also. So he gives them an ordinance of what they can't do in the land that he's going to give them. Because if they do it, he's saying if you're going to get, the land's going to spew you out. So 29 says, for whosoever should commit any of these abominations, even the souls that commit them shall be cut off from among their people. So the soul shall be cut off. And we have to listen to that. The soul will be cut off. See, a lot of times you're looking at things, our fleshly body. Your fleshly body may be there, but your soul may be gone. There's a lot of people who have a fleshly body, but their soul cut off. That's what's going on. A lot of people's soul has been cut off. Leviticus 20:6 says, and the soul that turns after such as have familiar spirits and after wizards to go whoring after them will even set my face against the I will even set my face against that soul and will cut him off from among his people. So engaging in sin such as this, he's saying, I'm going to cut that soul off and I'm going to be against him. So when we have mental illness, what's going on? Yah for us, or is he against us? And this is what Yah was showing me. We have rebelled against Yah. The scripture says, if you walk contrary to me, I'm going to walk contrary to you. What do people expect? Living a life of sin for generations upon generations. And then we don't understand why we're struggling with all these crazy mental illnesses. Stop walking contrary to Yah. That's number one. When we turn back to Yah, that's where our deliverance is found. Leviticus 20:25 says, ye shall therefore put difference between clean beasts and unclean, and beasts unclean, fowls and clean, and ye shall not make your souls abominable by beast or by fowl or by any manner of living thing that creeps on the ground, which I have separated from you as unclean. So a lot of people, even with what we eat, we've made ourselves abominable, and we take that lightly. We take these things lightly, and we wonder why we're struggling. He's telling, Yah didn't give these things to us just to give them to us. They're not to be burdensome to us. He gave them to us to protect us. But when you resent protection and you go out uncovered, whose territory are you in? The darkness, the kingdom of darkness. So you leave the light. You forsake the way of Yah. You end up in the kingdom of darkness, and you don't know why you're struggling with mental illness. Borderline personality disorder is a reflection of really being born into a state of the kingdom of darkness where they have access to a person where that soul has been in bondage because of legal rights. There's many ways a soul can be cut off. I have tons of ways. I'm going to read them as fast as I can because I want to get to the solution. But Yah had me in the Torah for this because whether it was you or your generations before you, if you are struggling with mental illness, it is due to sin. It is due to sin in your bloodline, and it's probably due to sin in your own life. It's due to trauma in your bloodline. It's due to trauma in your own life. Oftentimes, layers and layers. So in somebody in this severe case where it literally feels like they can't even control their own body, this was rooted from your womb. This was the sin that was going on in your conception. This was legal grounds for the enemy to hinder you from developing your soul to your body properly. And this is why deliverance is so, so crucial. Leviticus 22:3. Say unto them, whosoever he be of all your seed among your generations, that goes unto the holy things which the children of Yahshua hallow unto Yahuwah, having his uncleanness upon him, that soul shall be cut off from the presence. I am Yahuwah. So having uncleanness upon him. And that's why we have to separate ourselves from every unclean thing. Numbers 15:31. It says, Because he has despised the word of Yahuwah and has broken his commandment, that soul shall utterly be cut off. His iniquity shall be upon him. Numbers 30:2. If a man vow a vow unto Yahuwah, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word, he shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. So these vows, and I did the thing, listen to Death and Life, watch that video. It's very powerful as well. Talking about the death and life we speak, the vows that we make. These are other ways that the enemy uses to bind us. But when you have BPD, you have been bound by your parents and generational curses. Because the way that that person is bound, it's like they didn't really even get a chance to be sinning. It's something that was within them, and the attack on their life was from the womb. It's not the person, but the enemy will keep them ensnared by having them continue to curse themselves, like especially when they in that state of mind of the extreme hate and rage and anger. That's the enemy keeping them bound to their words, renewing, strengthening that unrighteous covenant. And I think Numbers. No, I did not. Okay, so we go to Deuteronomy 4:9. Only take heed to yourself and guard your soul diligently, lest you forget the things which your eyes have seen, and lest they depart from your heart all the days of your life. But teach them your sons and your sons' sons. So this is where we get the answers right here. So what are we supposed to do? So when Yah created his people, he created his people to guard his words. And then that one scripture I just read said, because you have hated Yahuwah's word, that soul shall be cut off. So you have people who literally reject the word of Yah. That soul is cut off. So if they're cut off and they having children in sin, cut off children, monstrous children, it doesn't mean Yah can't restore us. He divorced us. He cut us off. He divorced Yashrael, cut off some of his own natural branches. Yahusha came and died that we may be restored back to him. So the question is, if you want freedom from these demonic things that are ensnaring you, what are you willing to do to get it? A lot of people want easy salvation. Salvation isn't easy. The price has been paid by Yahusha, yes. What are we supposed to do in return? Return that back to him. People think Yahusha died was it. No, honey. You have to die too. You have to suffer too. You have to afflict your soul too. But people don't want to do that. They want the Christian mindset of, I accepted Yahusha, he changed my life, and I can still do what I want to do. They want to have it both ways. And that's just not reality. That is not how this works. So if you are bound by mental illness, you have to fast and pray. You have to stay in your word. You have to apply the word. And you have to die to your flesh and become a new creature in Yahusha. And if you're not willing to die to your flesh, you're going to remain bound. And then, like I've talked about, there's people who are so bound, they need people to intercede for them. That's when you fast and pray, you afflict your soul, and you petition Yah in the spiritual realm, ascend to be able to descend to destroy the stronghold of the enemy. That takes the grace, the power, and the authority of Yahusha. Without that, we're just, it's empty. That requires serious consecration, serious dedication, and serious work and commitment. And we as a people have to get back dedicated to that level, because we are supposed to be the light of the world. We are supposed to be setting the captives free. We are supposed to be healing the sick. But a lot of people want to keep their sin and still try to do the work. And it can't go that way. We got to be set apart, be the Kudashim, and let Yah move in us to help set those captives free. And this isn't talking about physically captive, even though we are in our captivity physically. This is talking about spiritually and souls being captive, and mentally being captive, and emotionally being captive. So that's why Yah tells us in his word that we are to take heed to ourselves, to guard our soul diligently, lest we forget, which we have, which we did, and that's why we grew up the way we grew up. But now we are returning back to Yah. We have to learn how to guard his word and dismantle anything that don't align with that. And it's until we completely are dismantled from the things of this world that we will be able to walk in the fullness of healing and the fullness of deliverance. We cannot half step. I mean, there's going to be glory to glory to glory. There's always more we can shake off in this flesh, because our flesh is wicked. Deuteronomy 4:29 says, "But if from thence you shall seek Yahuwah Eluah, you shall find him. If you seek him with all your heart and with all your soul." You want deliverance? Right there. If you seek him with all your heart and with all your soul, that is how you'll find him. But you need your soul to be able to do that. But you also have to look at the man in the cave. He was bound by demons, but he knew when he seen YAHUSHA, son of Dawood, have mercy on me. See, he's locked away, but he was able to cry out. Then the legions take over. Is it time you come to punish us? Right? A part of you that there's a part of you. And I used to say this. Oof, yeah, I just brought this back to my memory. Because like I said, most of my life, I had PTSD. I was suicidal at a young age. And I remember praying those, saying, "Yeah, son of Dawood, have mercy on me." Years praying that. That's all I could say. And people prayed for me, but it wouldn't change. Like, I'll be okay maybe a couple days or whatever. My lifestyle didn't change. Till that one day, I had that encounter with YAHUSHA. That he took pain from me that no man could take. That he relieved me of things that no man could relieve me from. He said, "Go and sin no more. Go and sin no more." That was what he gave me. Like, I could never go back to drugs. I could never go back to just not believing in Yah for the power that he's done for me, because I've experienced it. I could never go back to the world. I could never just be like, I'm done with this. As much as I be going through, y'all, sometimes I'm like, I want to be done with it. I'm tired of it. But could I do that? No. Because I met YAHUSHA. And he gonna say, "What did you listen? You encountered me." A lot of people don't get that. If I just see him one time, that encounter, a lot of people don't even get. A lot of people don't get to experience the divinity of YAHUSHA. A lot of people don't see that he is the healing. And it just takes one word. One word. That's it. That make me better than anyone know. What I'm saying is, if you can't say nothing else, if you are so entangled, say, Son of Dawood, have mercy on me. Don't leave me here to die. I want to serve you. I am bound. That's the realness that we have to have. He knows we are bound. I wanted to be free. I wanted to not be depressed. I wanted to not have PTSD. I wanted to not hurt so bad. But sin had me all trapped up. And it was sin. I can't sit here and say, oh, it's because I didn't have no sin. It was sin generationally and in my life that left me bound. And the more you dig into that, like in this truth, I can look back, yeah, people probably suffered from things in my bloodline. True. And then these things, Satan knows our bloodline. He knows what your grandma suffered from. He knows what your uncle suffered from. He knows what your mama suffered from. They have a record of our genealogy that we don't have. So they already know what, okay, so they suffer from that. I'm going to renew that covenant with this person by letting this and this happen. But because of our ignorance and not being trained up in truth, Satan has used that to continue to ensnare us. But now that we're not ignorant anymore, it's up to us to do the work. It's up to us to uproot the curses. It's up to us to break these covenants. It's up to us to destroy the altars that we have built to other false Elohim. We cannot be slothful. We must seek diligently, Yah, and ask him to teach our hands to rightfully war. So you can help somebody else heal. But you have to first make sure you know how to heal within. And as we heal ourselves, we are now equipped to help heal others. You know, as I was meditating on Kifa, and I sent this to my husband, and it's such a powerful scripture. But it says, you know, YAHUSHA told Kifa this after he denied him thrice. It says the devil desires to sift you out like wheat. But I have prayed for you that your faith, he didn't say destroy, but that it won't be shaken, that it won't be completely, like he's praying that his faith won't be shaken. I don't want to mess up the scripture, but it's in Luke. But that point is that Kifa wasn't converted yet. Even though he walked with YAHUSHA, even though he knew who YAHUSHA was, he had not been converted. But YAHUSHA, as he is our high priest and our advocate, prayed for him because he knew he was going to deny him. He knew not just once, but 3 times. But he said, once you overcome this, go back and strengthen your brethren. So once your mind gets restored, once you know who you are, go back and strengthen your brethren. That is the call and petition. It's not that we've arrived, but it's like once you know who YAHUSHA is, it is a duty and a mandate to tell someone else, it's YAHUSHA, there's freedom. It's YAHUSHA, there's deliverance. It's submission to him where you'll be set free. It's not because I got the answers. It's because I know who YAHUSHA is. When anyone's suffering from mental illness, the answer is in YAHUSHA. The answer is in him. The answer is in through your diligently of seeking him. And he knows when you've done all you can. He knows when you've come to the end of yourself. He knows when you're at your lowest and lowest of estates. He knows when you hit your rock bottom. It's in him. He is the deliverance. He is the salvation. He is the restorer of our mind. Through him, we must put him on every day and renew our mind daily. The enemy is seeking every day like a roaring lion, whom he may devour. The righteous fall. It's not like we ain't going to fall. We may fall 7 times, but we get back up through YAHUSHA. We keep on enduring this race. And as darkness increases, we have to get delivered and get our minds back function like YAHUSHA's mind functions. Change the way you live. Change the way you eat. Change the way you operate. Humble yourself in the sight of YAHUAH that he may lift you up. Purge your hands. Fast and pray. That's the way to complete healing and restoration. Hallelujah. And then I'm going to go to Deuteronomy 6 and 5. And it says, and you shall love YAHUAH with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. So these are ways that we turn things around. When we love him with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our might. If the enemy has a part of your soul, you can't love YAHUAH with all, right? So you have to be delivered to be able to do this. That's why we repent daily. That's why we say to YAHUAH, like, anything that's preventing me from worshiping you in Ruach and in truth, deliver me from that thing. Because if we don't have a full soul, we don't have a whole heart, a renewed heart, a heart of flesh, how are you going to worship YAHUAH with all those things? It's impossible. But with Yah, all things are possible. So he has to deliver you and cleanse you so you can do this. Because that's his number one commandment, to love YAHUAH with all your heart, mind, and soul. And then to love your neighbor as yourself. You can't do none of those things if you don't have a whole soul and a whole heart. And you have no might. You weak. Yah has to deliver us so we can do these. And the first thing for people to seek is not to to try to serve and praise. It's actually to seek deliverance. Because you cannot serve and you cannot praise until you've been delivered. To the extent of where you can serve him in pureness and in truth. Can't serve him in captivity. Because your heart is bound. Your soul is bound. So what happens when we try to serve and we're bound is everything is corrupted. That's what the devil uses to corrupt us. He uses it for the kingdom of darkness. Deuteronomy 10 and 12. And now Yahshua was, what does YAHUAH require of you? But to fear YAHUAH, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve YAHUAH with all your heart and with all your soul. This is what YAHUAH requires of us. To guard the commandments of YAHUAH and his statutes which I command you this day for your good. So that was when Moshe was telling to the children of Yashua, that is the same standard that he held us to today. This is what he requires of us. That's why we need deliverance. That's why we need YAHUSHA, because he is our deliverer. And we have the physical deliverance. We have the spiritual, mental, emotional deliverance. Because YAHUSHA should be bringing deliverance to your life. And if there is no deliverance in your life, then the question is, have you really, really, really had a conversion in YAHUSHA? And I would segue, get the self-examination journal to see that. Because if you have had a conversion, your fruit should change. You have to read that and meditate on that in his word, because If your fruit ain't changed, then you ain't been converted. If you have no love and you still operating in hatred, that ain't conversion. If you operate in anger, that ain't conversion. If you operate in complete bitterness, that ain't conversion. Yes, there's things that sometimes you don't realize. That's not what I'm talking about. It's when you know you're fully operating in complete things every day. Like your heart is not soft, it's hard. Your heart is not trying to do the right thing, your heart is still the same way it was in the world, then you ain't been converted. We can't deceive ourselves or play the religious game. The more you seek, the more you find. Yah will reveal things to you. He is grateful and faithful to do so. And it's not the ones who are doing the work, because we not all arrived. It's the ones who say that they know YAHUSHA, but don't bear not an ounce of his fruit. And that tree, yes, it's going to be cut off and thrown into the fire. And we don't want to be that. We don't want to deceive ourselves. That's why the mental illnesses are able to still ensnare us when we deceive ourselves in lies. And where do lies come from? We know from Hasatan. Deuteronomy 11, verses 13. It says, and it shall come to pass, if you shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to love YAHUAH and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give you the rain of your land in his due season, the first rain and the latter rain, that you may gather in your grain and your wine and your oil. And I will send grass in your fields for your cattle, that you may eat and be full. Guard yourselves that your heart be not deceived, and ye turn aside and serve other Elohim and worship them. And then Yahuwah's wrath be kindled against you, and he shut up the heavens, that there be no rain, and that the land yield not her fruit, unless he perish quickly from off the good land which Yahuwah gives you. Therefore shall ye lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, and that they may be as frontlets between your eyes. Hallelujah. And that is what I was saying. So we can deceive our hearts and end up serving other Elohim. And what happens? Yahuwah's anger is kindled against us. So he's no longer protecting us. He's against us. If he ain't protecting us, that means the enemy has access to us. So you read, Job, Eob, right? Literally, Satan can't do nothing. Nothing that Yahuwah don't allow him to. So we have to say, yeah. And I just get teary-eyed just thinking about this because this is deep. Yeah. Forgive me for all that I've done against you. Forgive me for walking contrary to you. Forgive me. I want to walk submitted to you. Please protect me. Please restore me. You see, it strengthened me to go through what you want me to do if it's for your glory. Sometimes it's things we go through that ain't necessarily because we did so wrong, but for his glory. So we have to discern the two. But if we know we're in willful sin, don't even deceive yourself, because people will be in willful sin. Tomorrow is for the glory of Yah. Yah gets no glory in our sin. We are giving glory to the devil. And it's really the devil, like, see, I told you to Yah. I told you that I can get them to turn on you. Like he told, Hasatan told Yah, like, oh yeah, if you took the hedge, I can get him. So I said, yeah, it's like, go ahead and try. He knew he wasn't going to turn. There's a lot of people that, makes it go ahead and try that he knows that's going to turn. That's just a story that we are allowed to see how the counsel works. So we can't deceive ourselves. And then when we choose sin, Satan's like, that they on mighty grounds. Like, that's willful sin right there. I have access to them. And that's what you have to get. When we do sin, you have you don't understand. Satan is like, you are on trial. Okay? You on trial. You're going to court. Satan is the public. No. Yeah, the public offender. Yes. Satan's the public offender. YAHUSHA is the defense attorney. And YAHUAH is the judge. So you got to understand that. Hasatan is the one who accuses us. And we'd be sometimes completely in error, completely in sin. But then you got YAHUSHA standing in the gap. Then you got YAHUSHA defending us. Because Hasatan's trying to get as many people to the lake of fire as he can. So when we do willful sin, or our ancestors, or our parents, they don't realize. Now Satan's like, I get the child. Did you see you out here having children at a wedlock? Oh, I get that child. See, Satan's able to go to Yah and say that. But we also know there's YAHUSHA there. He thinks he got that child. See, YAHUSHA petitions for souls that are his. He don't petition for every soul, but he petitions for the souls that are his. It's not his will that any should perish. But when we choose, he knows our hearts. He searches the hearts and souls of every man. So if your desire is for righteousness, I ain't gonna leave you out there. But don't deceive yourself. And don't try to deceive Yah. This is why people don't get delivered, because they try to deceive Yah. They will not be accountable. They will not own up for their stuff. They will not say, you know what, I'm dead wrong. Correct my mindset and give me a right mindset. No, they want to keep their distorted mindset. They want to do what they want to do, but then they say they want to live righteous. It don't work that way. Yah is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, that shall he also reap. And people don't understand. You ain't just sowing for yourself. You're sowing for your lineage. And it makes me so passionate because so many people are destroying their bloodlines, making it difficult for someone else to be redeemed. But Yah's going to have himself a remnant. He promised Abraham. So if you don't do it, maybe somewhere in your bloodline, someone will. We don't want our completely an entire bloodline to be utterly cut off and not restored. He's giving us a chance to restore ourselves. He's giving us a chance to be made whole. But if you don't choose that wholeness, are you just going to have excuses? Because he gave us everything. He gave us everything we need. It's up to us to apply, to do the work, to fast and pray. You know, he's just looking. He stands at the door and knocks. We have to let him in, though. And it's not letting him in on our terms, but letting him in on his. And that's why people remain bound. We have to throw our thoughts, our beliefs, what we think, what we thought we knew away. And say, I don't care about all the stuff I thought I knew. I want your pure truth, YAHUSHA. Fill me with your Ruach HaKodesh. Purge me from all the uncleanness. Destroy all the unrighteous yokes and altars out of my life. Show me how I can dismantle this from me. Give me the direction. Then he could have his Ruach HaKodesh dwell in us, lead and guide us. Then can we hear and see? But when we choose ourselves over and over, he's like, okay, I will turn you over to that thing. And then you're not turning only yourself over. Now your children are born into the lies and the deception. Now your children are being born into worldly and secularly lifestyles. You're destroying your children and your children's children. It's the most selfish thing we can do. But the devil got us so wrapped up in ourselves. Deuteronomy 30:2. And it says, I'm going to start at 1. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon you, the blessings and the curse, which I have set before you, and you shall call them to mind among all the nations, whither YAHUAH has driven you, and shall return unto YAHUAH, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command you this day, you and your children, with all your heart and with all your soul, that then YAHUAH will turn your captivity and have compassion upon you, and will return and gather you from all the nations whither YAHUAH has scattered you. And that's what we got to do. When we return to YAHUAH, obey his voice according to all that Musha commanded. So we have to go back to Torah. There's no way around that, which people try to run around Torah. You can't get there without it. Yes, we go to YAHUSHA, but YAHUSHA saying, I'm restoring you so you can hear the word that was given, because before Musha was I. So we have to be restored by YAHUSHA to turn back to Torah, because that was the word that YAHUAH gave us. And he said, because you disobeyed that, you were in captivity. So the blessings and the curse fell upon you. But when you remember me and obey, then I will change the captivity. So he's going to change the captivity physically, but he has to do it mentally and spiritually first. Because we already seen what happened when he just delivered them physically out of Egypt, but their mindset wasn't out of Egypt. So he has to heal our minds, heal our souls, heal our emotions, restore to us his way, his design. But we can't come to him in our flesh, thinking we're going to tell him how it's going to be. And a lot of people move that way, moving in their flesh, trying to talk about truth. That ain't truth. That's deception. We have to be led by his Ruach HaKodesh to truth. That is the only way. That is the only way healing comes. Through the truth of his word, through Yahushua HaMashiach. Jubilees 1:16. Just going to touch on this. I ain't going to do too many apocrypha, but this was pretty good. And after this, they will turn to me from amongst the other nations with all their heart and with all their soul and with all their strength. And I will gather them from amongst all the other nations. They will seek me, so shall I be found of them. So when you seek him with your whole heart, with all their heart, he said all their soul, all their strength they were seeking him, then he will be found of them. When they seek me with all their heart and with all their soul, and I will disclose to them abounding peace with righteousness, and I will remove them the plant of uprightness with all my heart and with all my soul, and they shall be for a blessing and not a curse, and they shall be the head and not the tail, and I will build my sanctuary in their midst, and I will tabernacle with them, and I will be their Alua, and they shall be my people in truth and righteousness, and I will not forsake them nor fail them, for I am Yahuwah Alua. And Musha or Mashah fought on his face and prayed and said, Oh, Yahuwah Alua, do not forsake your people and your inheritance, so that they should wander in the error of their hearts. And do not deliver them into the hands of the enemies, the other nations, lest they should rule over them and cause them to sin against you. So Musha was like, please don't even let this happen. But Yahuwah said, no, it's going to happen. But when they do all these things, their ancestors, so we are those children. We're the children's children who are remembering, and we're turning back to him with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our might, with everything in us. That's how we have to fear him. People don't understand. When you fear Yah, that's the hugest thing. And I said this probably since the beginning when I came into the truth, because Yah showed it to me. When you fear Yah, demons can't dwell where the fear of Yah is. If there is true fear of Yah, The demons cannot dwell with you like that. It's when we lax on fearing Yah, when we're starting to be slacked. And it's, yes, it's a reverence, it's an honor. Yes, that's beautiful. But it's also knowing Yahuwah gonna strike you down. It is also knowing that. Because when you fear him, it's like, I don't want to do nothing against him. So your mindset isn't to please your flesh. But when you lax on the fear of Yah, you can convince yourself and justify yourself to anything. That's how the enemy, the Hasatan, that's how they get the foothold. By like, oh, it's okay. Just like he told Hua, it's okay. You ain't gonna surely die. You're rationalizing to break Yah's commandments. That's not fearing Yah. When you fear Yah, you're like, I ain't even gonna think about doing that. That's the fear of Yah. Because you're like, I don't want to do nothing to be cut off from my Savior. I don't want to do nothing to be removed from Yah's presence. We have to fear Yah. It's so essential. Without the fear of Yahuwah, the demons have a field day. And I'm going to go to Psalms 3 and 2. And I'm bringing up Telahim because Telahim is so powerful. Telahim, people like, okay, so where do I get the concept of a fragmented soul? Souls being locked up in prison. Dawood and all the other psalmists, I don't know which ones he wrote, some of them, but we see it through our forefather Dawood, how the soul can be trapped, how the soul can be ensnared, and how he's seeking Yahuwah to deliver his soul because of sin. There's one where he says, because of my own sin. We need Yahuwah to deliver us so we can properly praise and worship him. And when you're struggling with borderline personality disorder, narcissism, PTSD, suicidality, any of these things, I got to push this. I got to push deliverance. I got to push Yahusha. I got to push fasting and prayer. I have to push the fear of Yah because it's only through him. It's only through turning away from the world that you can be free. I mean, there's many times, I would say, like 3 times in my life before I came into this truth, 2 or 3 times. I mean, I would do fast or do juicing or do smoothie. Well, I did smoothies. I didn't do juicing. Smoothies would do, and I have like these beautiful, like, oh, I feel great and happy and feeling good, right? This is naturally looking for the flesh to free you. And eating healthy, definitely, I recommend. But spiritually is most important because that ain't going to last always. People are going to try you. And if you're not anchored in the word, what is you eating healthy going to do? If you're living a life of stress, what is eating healthy going to do? And that is why Yah has shown me spiritually first, spiritual deliverance. And he had to free me spiritually. And then I changed my eating as well. But it was a spiritual encounter, like I said, with Yahusha that changed me. And it manifests in every aspect of my life. I look at the pictures of when I first came. I was glowing from head to toe. I was enjoying simple things. And that's why that scripture or that song, I just know, take me back to where I first believed. Because we don't, like for me, I can't, Yah don't want me to ever lose that. What happens is you have this zeal when Yah delivers you. You have this zeal when you're converted. You have this zeal. And the enemy tries to steal that zeal. Whatever he has to do. Whatever, if it's relationships, if it's your job, if it's your children, if it's ministries, assemblies, whatever he has to do to try to make you lose that fire, that zeal, that joy, that peace, that love, that long suffering, that gentleness, that meekness. Oh, Hasatan on it. What do I got to do to destroy that in that person? Because they are too on fire for Yah. Yah don't ever want us to lose that. But the devil tries to ensnare us. So we are bound and we don't have that zeal. But even in those situations, Shaul said his grace is sufficient. We know what Yah delivered us from. But we know the call and the mission of how we have to tell the people, go to Yahusha, go to Yahusha. Because through him is salvation. Through him is deliverance. But the enemy tries to taint those waters. And he's been doing an excellent job of it. But Yahuwah has a greater plan. And that's why I'm here today to tell y'all, you can be healed. You can be restored. You can be delivered, and you can be set free. I don't care what mental illness. It's not the mental illness that's keeping you bound. It's the sin. You depart from that sin. You start praying, oh, son of Dawood, have mercy on me every day, every time you're having an attack. You start fearing Yah. Things are going to shift for you. As people who, we know we have people who need help, that they are able to free themselves. We start fasting and praying. We start seeking Yah, asking Yah to have mercy, to show us how to intervene and intercede on their behalf. Things are going to shift. We do it without expectation. We expect healing. I'm saying we do it without expecting something from that person. See, that's why a lot of times when we try to intercede for family members and we don't see things happening, it's because we have an expectation for that family member to do something for us. And we have to get to the point where we're so high in Yah that his love is sufficient, where we're not even looking for that person to do anything. We're just interceding. And whatever happens, we're like, praise Yah. That's when things will shift. But a lot of times we're too close to the situation, which hinders the transformation. Go to Telahim, Psalms 3 and 2. It says, many there be which say of my soul, there is no help for him in Yahuwah, Selah. People watch, and when you have the stigma of mental illness, a lot of people say there's no help for you. I remember thinking I was just lost. I remember thinking I was just cursed. I remember thinking that, yeah, what is I here? What am I here for? Am I here just to be suffering? Like, what am I? Like, I was young doing this stuff. But when I found out who I found out, like, yeah, it was like, I was created for this. Like, it made everything make sense. Yah chose me. I didn't choose Yah. I was created to do this work. I was created to go through, like, at a young age, it was like so, and I think back now, like, even my mom, she tells me stuff like, man, it's so amazing, like, even the way I eat and stuff, because I be doing raw. But she's like, even you as a child, like, I was born, I never liked candy or ice cream, and I didn't like, she goes, now that she sees the way I eat now, she goes, it was naturally in you from the beginning. We corrupted it. See, Yah created us for stuff. The devil corrupts stuff. So we had to go back and find out who we really are. I knew and was in tune, like, there's a curse on me. I probably wasn't saying nothing about no curses. There was a curse on us as a people. And when I knew that, that freed me. I was like, wonder why. Everything made sense. And when you see, and then I can see my grandfather, he was called in his own right. And I remember before he died, before I even knew the truth, telling my grandfather, we grew up in the Shabbat and the feast days, I've said before. But I had that, like, kind of, because I had gotten abused in the church. I wasn't really feeling that. But I told my grandfather, I said, your words, like, what you taught me, I'll never forget. I'm going to keep it. I said, I'm going to do right. And I remember my grandfather, he couldn't talk. His tears falling. And I knew he saw the condition. It was just Yah showing me this. I knew that he was grieved by the condition of his children and his children's children. My grandfather would be sick as a dog, praying in the hospital bed at night for binding Satan for his family. And I think back and I'm like, Yah chose me for multiple reasons, but one of them is that I told and promised my grandfather I was going to continue to keep the Shabbat, to keep all the things he taught me, to walk this thing out to the best of my ability. I told him that, not even knowing that how I was going to do it. But Yah knew, and my desire was to. And so I carry his baton, and that keeps me going too. Nobody cherished my grandfather. He wasn't no famous pastor. He was a humble servant. He didn't like do all that fancy, do all that make you want to jump and shout preacher. He just taught the word pure. He had my grandfather was amazing. He had dementia. You sit there, someone reading the Bible, they're struggling to read it. He would be able to quote what that person was saying with no Bible in his hand. And to grow up with that and not appreciate that like you should, yeah, I'm like, my grandfather was like a Noah in his day. And so, this is just how important it is for us to live right. This is how important it is for us to just walk right and to trust God's plan for us. He has called us for a purpose and a season. He has called us to be delivered, to be set free, so we can set captives free. He told his disciples, freely you have been given, freely. Like freely you have received, freely you give. We are to give this to everyone we come across, anyone who reaches out to me. I will never turn them away. We are to give the love of Yah. We are to be examples of the love of Yah. We are to be examples of the healing power of Yah. We are to be examples of the glory of Yah. We are to be examples that even in difficulty, we rest in Yah and on His word. But if we choose to not rest on His word and to do our own thing, then we deceive ourselves. If you're not willing to actually stand for the word of Yah and its purity, you deceive yourself. And that is why we remain bound most of the time. I'm going to go to Psalms 6, 3 and 4. My soul is also sore vexed, but you, O Yahuwah, how long? Return, O Yahuwah. Deliver my soul, O save me, for your mercy's sake. So only Yahuwah can save us. We cannot save ourselves. And when we know when we're in bondage, Psalms is the best place to meditate. I mean, Yahoo and I both have Psalms. I have it chapter by chapter. He has it the full blown Psalms. I would definitely recommend meditating on that in your sleep. You're going through spiritual attacks. Psalms should just be the replay because it's warfare. It's not just prayers like people think of just because he was going through war physically, but that's spiritual warfare. Psalms is the place to be if you're going through that. Go to Psalms 11 and 5. It just shows, I'm reading these to show how Dawood literally shows us that our souls need to be set free. Our souls are captive. Our souls get bound because of sin, because of our forefathers. Anything. Yahuwah is the only deliverer of our soul. It's not man. It's not drugs. It's not counseling. We need wise counsel, yes. But it's only through Yahuwah. So Psalms 11 and 5. Yahuwah tries the righteous, but the wicked and him that loves violence his soul hates. And I wanted to put this in here because, like I said, we got to own up to our stuff. Are we operating in righteousness or are we operating in wickedness? If you operate in wickedness, you can't repent. You can choose to operate in righteousness. You can choose to repent for the wickedness of not only yourself, but your forefathers. You can choose to repent and walk a different way. But you have to turn. You cannot deceive yourself and not turn. Because if you deceive yourself and don't turn, you're just going to end up further bound. He hates the wicked. It says it here. Yahuwah tries the righteous, but the wicked and him that love violence, his soul hates. So if you don't want him to hate your soul, you got to become the righteous. You got to operate and pursue righteousness. And don't deceive yourself. Repent from being wicked and choose righteousness this day. Then we got Psalm 16 and 10. For you will not leave my soul in Sheol, neither will you suffer your Holy One to see corruption. So, and this is a prophecy, but I'm going to just quote it because Sheol, we know people think Sheol's like a fire. Really, Sheol is death, the grave, So he's saying, you ain't going to leave my soul in the grave. Neither will you suffer your Holy One. And this is a prophecy about HaMashiach. Point about it is, Yahuwah is the deliverer of our souls. Psalm 17:13. Arise, O Yahuwah, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is your sword. Another one saying that Yahuwah is our deliverer of our souls. Psalms 19:7. The Torah of Yahuwah is perfect, restoring the soul. The testimony of Yahuwah is sure, making wise the simple. So what can restore your soul? Ooh, the Torah of Yahuwah. So we got to apply his instruction, his Torah, his word, his commandments. And yes, that's the first 5 books of the Bible, but really it's the instructions of Yahuwah. If the Ruach HaKodesh tell you to do something right now, will you do it? Will you apply it? Will you be obedient? That's his Torah. Being obedient to his instruction. Then I have Psalms 22:20. Deliver my soul from the sword, my darling from the power of the dog. And this is him supplicating before Adonai. Haste to help me, he says in verse 19. Then we're going to go to 23:3. He restores my soul. He leads me in the cycles of righteousness for his name's sake. So Yahuwah restores our souls. He leads us in the cycles of righteousness from glory to glory to glory to glory. That's why knowing Yahuwah's cycles is essential. If we don't know his cycles, we're deceiving ourselves. It's so important to know his ways. It says the children of Yahshua knew the acts, but Moshe knew the ways of Yahuwah. So in order to operate like Moshe was a type of deliverer, when people see us, we are to be types of deliverers, types of Mashiachs. Yahusha is HaMashiach. We are to be anointed people who go out and are able to deliver people in the name of Yahusha. Because we're supposed to be in him and he in us and he's in Yahuwah. So it's all a cod. But when you're not doing this work, that ain't going to happen. There is not going to be deliverance that follows you. With Yahusha, that's where deliverance follows. When you know that a person, that's how you know. People are too busy trying to be intellectual, smart, but not Ruach filled, not moving in the power of Yahusha, where the true deliverance, if true deliverance is taking place, we need to see a removal of wickedness. If people are getting away with wickedness, then we ain't really got that far. And y'all showed me that too, because I was very disappointed. I was like very, very, very disappointed, because I really thought like we were at the point where Yahuwah was, like in Masha's time, or Musha, however you say it. Nobody could deceive Musha, because he was talking face to face to Yahuwah. And not only that, but Yahuwah ain't gonna let nobody deceive his prophets, or he was like a god to Pharaoh. So Yahuwah was telling him everything that was going on. So we're not that. I haven't seen, this is being completely honest, I haven't seen Yah's returning. He hasn't fully returned. When he fully returns, there's going to be no one who can lie to Yah's people. There will be no deception, because Yah will not allow it. There is no, even though, like, you see how, I forgot his name. In Moshe's time, it starts with a K. I'm just gonna blank. But they rose up against Moshe. My goodness. They rose up against Moshe. And Yah told them, and they were saying, well, Yah speaks to me too. But Yah was angry and wanted to destroy these people. And Moshe was so meek, and he rent his clothes and like, why are you doing this? And so you have to think a lot of things. Yah's right there in the mix because Moshe and Yah talk like that. We are not at this point where people are being moved by Yah, where everything's exposed. Because I was thinking we had got to that point, and I was so excited. But Yah had to show me that we ain't there yet, because Eliyahu, Eliyahu, also, the prophets. None of the prophets could be lied to. Just put it like that. There was no deception that they could be lied to. Even the disciples couldn't be lied to. That's why you have Ananias and Sapphira who dropped dead. Yeah, when he's fully returned to his people ain't gonna be able to lie. They're gonna catch it right away. There's not gonna be deception in the midst of people in the assemblies of Yah. It's not gonna be all that will be exposed. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna be ignored, or it's not gonna be. The heads will know. It's just not gonna be possible. But there, right now, we live where people kind of see some truth. It's everyone's doing right in their own eyes. There's partial truth going on. Yeah, it's moving in the hearts of some people, yes. But the fullness of Yah hasn't been restored because there's so much wickedness that has to be purged. People haven't really healed within themselves, and then it's manifesting within like assemblies, congregations, churches, whatever. There's people in full-blown sin trying to teach, and then they're just people who get blinded. When you get esteemed, and I was talking to my daughter about this, even in the industry, like if you get in Hollywood, whatever character flaws and whatever character you have is amplified. So if you're a character, you have any type of narcissism, if you were super famous, that narcissism will amplify. Whatever it is, the same thing when God gives you gifts, God esteems you. That esteem could be for your own destruction, or that esteem could just keep you humble at the face of Yah. For Moshe, he was it says he was the meekest man. So people always talk about Moshe and his anger. He was very meek. There's probably not many people today even nowhere near him. So he was a meek man. So when he was chosen, that's probably why he was chosen. He was super meek, didn't really want to talk. He didn't even like talking. He stuttered. Like, I don't want to do this. I was like, you don't tell me what to do. I'm your creator. So he was chosen for that because of that. He was fighting for the people he fighting for. And for me, being an advocate, like that was my thing. Like when you fighting for your people being in bondage, and then the people you fighting for turn against you, you like, what? You rent your clothes, he ran out. It's crazy. But so you can only imagine this man trying to help these, his people, and then being rejected. And Yah's like, no, I want you to go back in your freedom. You're like, me? I don't even like talking, y'all. Like, I stutter, or I got something wrong with my mouth. I don't know what he said. What was exactly wrong? People say stuttering. He didn't like the way he talked. I was like, I created you. But that's what we are missing in this season, is that complete meekness. That's why you have so much strife and division. That's why you have some people who want to argue. That's why people ain't getting really set free. It's a form of yalliness, but not the fullness of power thereof. And when you see that fullness of power, you'll know. When you experience that fullness of power, you'll know. There will be no, like I said, it's not going to be possible for deception. It just won't be. No one could deceive Yah's people back then. And when Yah's really esteemed you, no one will be able to deceive his people now. The only scripture that I have reference of is Joshua. That just popped in my head. when they got the promised land and those people pretended to be people from another area and they made a covenant with them, they got deceived. But other than that, like YAHUSHA, you don't really see that. It's just interesting that there's so much deception now. And that's why I believe in this day and time, you see a form of godliness, a form of freedom, a form of truth, a form of awakening. Not the fullness of it yet. It hasn't been manifested. I'm going to go to 25:20. Oh, guard my soul and deliver me. Let me not be ashamed, for I put my trust in you. We put our trust in Yahuwah, He will deliver us. But you can't say you put your trust in Yahuwah doing wickedness. And I think we deceive ourselves with that. You're doing sin, you're trusting in Yahuwah. Don't deceive yourself, okay? Be honest. Say, Yahuwah, I want to trust you. I have this bondage only you can deliver me from. Please deliver this from me. Gotta be honest with Yahuwah. Do not deceive yourself by mixing the set apart the kudash with the profane. And I think I was fasting one day, and that's the grievous thing for me. It grieves me how many times, even when I look at my life, I grew up in church and all the corruption and see all that stuff. It's like, yeah, I wonder why these things happen, because all the profane, all the mixing of the kudash with the profane, all of the deception, all of the lies. And it makes me super, it brings me to a point of grievousness. And it's not because I know Yahuwah can't fix it. It's just because we've done so much wickedness against him and we know he hates it, but we still try to justify it. That's why we bound. When we deceive ourselves like that. Just get to the point and be honest, like, yeah, Yahuwah, I'm bound. I want to be free, and only you can free me. Lead and guide me and show me what I need to do. Psalms 31:9. Have mercy upon me, O Yahuwah, for I am in trouble. My eye is consumed with grief, yea, my soul and my belly. This is how we got to pray. When you really want deliverance, that's how you're going to be praying. Psalms 33:20. Our soul waits for Yahuwah. He is our help and our shield. Psalms 34:22. Yahuwah redeems the soul of his servants, and none of them that trust in him shall be desolate. So when the devil's trying to tell you that there ain't no hope for you, you stand on this word. You say Yahuwah redeems the soul of his servants, and none of them that trust in him shall be desolate. So if you know you standing on Yah, stand on his word. Don't let any beliefs outside of the word dictate how you behave. And that's what Yah is showing me, the dismantling of the false beliefs. The only beliefs we should be standing on is what his word said. Psalms 41:4. I said, Yahuwah, be merciful unto me. Heal my soul, for I have sinned against you. Like I said, being completely honest. Yahuwah, have mercy on me, for I have sinned against you. If you want deliverance from any type of mental disorder, that's what you got to say. Yahuwah, have mercy on me, for I have sinned against you. Yahuwah, have mercy on me, for my ancestors have sinned against you. Forgive my mother. Forgive my father. Forgive my grandmother. Forgive my grandmother. Like, go down the bloodline, starting with yourself. That's how we got to do this thing. If we want true deliverance, and we got to seek. Take it away. If you saying, yeah, I can't take this sin away. I'm struggling with, let me see. Okay, I'm struggling with drugs. I can't stop the drugs. This is an example. But if you really want to be free, say, yeah, take it away. Okay? He'll take it away. Take it away. Take my taste for it away. Take my thoughts for it away. He'll take it away. You have to trust in him. You have to believe in him. You have to give it to him. But if you don't give it to him, he can't take it away. Psalms 49:15. But Yahuwah will redeem my soul from the power of Sheol, for he shall receive me, Selah. So he will redeem us from the grave. He is our redeemer. He is our deliverer. He is our waymaker. Selah on that. He will redeem you. Stand on that. Psalms 55:18. He has delivered my soul in peace from the battle that was against me, for there was many with me. So there, he will deliver our soul in peace and shalom. Psalm 62:1. Truly my soul waits upon Yahuwah. From him comes my salvation. So we have to wait on Yah. Wait on him. Trust in him. Let him bring salvation. And waiting means waiting. It doesn't mean doing our own thing while we wait. It means being still and knowing that he is Yah. Psalms 107:9. For he satisfies the longing soul and fills the hungry soul with goodness. If you longing, he gonna satisfy you. If you seeking, he gonna satisfy you. Keep seeking him. Keep longing for him. Keep pursuing your deliverance. He will bring it to you. He may not come when we want him, but he's always on time. See, when we look at how YAHUSHA was walking through the scene, how the people he healed, some people were suffering for 10, 15, 12 years. For me, I was suffering 20 years, over 20 years of suffering, over 20 years. But when he came, he is always on time. And he can redeem the time. He redeems the time. That's how amazing he is. So we have to operate and know that when we pursue him and seek him with all of our heart, he's faithful. We have to be consistent. We have to be disciplined in that. And a lot of times I think our deliverance is delayed because of our lack of discipline. Because we do good for a minute and we fall off. You do good for a minute and fall off. That's why it's delayed. It's the consistency we need to get so we can get deliverance and he can hear us and honor us. When we are inconsistent, that's double-minded. That's why he makes us you wait. You don't have to wait because you need to be consistent. And that's one thing that I'm grateful for. That, ever since y'all took me, I was like, there's no way I can ever go back. There's nothing else for me. See, that's consistent. He gave me consistency. In my own self, I was never consistent. In my own self, I was never faithful. Yes, I was seeking Yah, but still doing my own thing like Christianity. But when you really know Yah, you really know what he done for you, there is no option. I've lost a lot. I've suffered a lot in this awakening. Yah is the only faithful thing that I have. Yah is the only thing that I know to be true. Yah is the only thing that my hope is in. And even in this dark season that has been happening, I had to fast and I've had to pray because I knew that the enemy was seeking to sift me like wheat. But Yah says, go back and strengthen the brethren when you get out of this. And he brought people to me in that season to help strengthen me and for me to help strengthen. That's how Yah works. He is so faithful. He did not, everything we go through and for ourselves is for the strengthening of the body. Psalms 119:28. My soul melts for heaviness. Strengthen me according to your word. Psalms 142:7. Bring my soul out of prison. See, this is what I'm saying. Our souls can be in prison, that I may praise your name. The righteous shall compass me about, for you shall deal bountifully with me. So while your soul is in prison, you're bound up. You're not really, like I said, you're not able to give that pure praise. You can give a corrupted praise. You're not able to serve you with all your heart, mind, and soul because your soul's bound. He needs to deliver us out of prison that we may be able to give a righteous praise, that we can praise his name, that righteousness can pass us about. And this is what we have to seek. If mental illness is, you're watching this because you're really struggling with BPD, or someone may be struggling, fasting and prayer, but the deliverance of their soul. Definitely, if you, for yourself, deliverance of your own soul, for others, pray for deliverance of their soul. Because I realized that when you're close to somebody, especially for me, it's hard for me to be objective because my emotions are involved as a woman. Analytically, I could say it. Emotionally, I can't deal with it. So, Yah has shown me this. But it's through YAHUAH. This is what we got to pray. We got to strengthen ourselves. We have to not allow our emotions to rule. And we have to pray for the souls of people to be delivered out of prison. They can't love because their soul's bound. The soul is really kind of the biggest part of your mind, will, and emotion. So if your soul's bound, you don't really have the right emotions. You can't really connect with people. Say no empathy, able to detach easily. Your soul's missing. Satan has your soul captive. We are to pray, bring my soul, or bring my brother's soul, bring my sister's soul out of prison, that they may praise your name, that the righteousness shall compass them about. For you shall deal bountifully with them. Like, this should be our meditation and prayer. If it's for ourselves, we can pray for ourselves. And honestly, I've realized when you understand trauma, pieces of your soul can get bound by different points of trauma in your life. So that's why it goes with the fragmented mind, soul being fragmented by the sin of different trauma in your life, by the different initiations that took a portion of your soul. Now so you have to recover pieces of your soul, or if it's a huge thing or you never had it fully attached, it could be bound to the womb. So it's through the spirit, through the Ruach HaKodesh, that you have to seek Yah, what to pray, how to pray it, what to do, how to fast. Because deliverance is individual. Deliverance is, Yah will lead you in what he wants you to do for each person. So it's important to have a prayer life, to hear from the Father, to be directed by him, so true freedom can take place. And the last scripture I'm going to give is Psalms 143:3. It says, for the enemy has persecuted my soul. He has smitten my life down to the ground. He has made me to dwell in darkness as those that have been long dead. So this, we can look at it naturally, but I put that because it's spiritual. It's what happens when you're bound by mental illness. You feel like you're dead. I beg, you are tormented so bad that you want to die. And it's torment. That's what it is. Your soul's being persecuted so bad that your life is down to the ground. You're dwelling in darkness as if you have been long dead. That is this sums up mental illness. Like being captive, I don't care what type of mental illness, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, whether it's suicidality, whether it's BPD, whether it's bipolar disorder, whether it's narcissism, whether it's antisocial disorder. If you don't rule yourself, it's crippling. You're as in darkness as a dead person. To be depressed, I remember times just being so depressed where you couldn't get out of bed. You feel bound to the bed. I wrote a poem about that in college, wrapped up like a snake, surrounding you where you can't move and you're suffocating. That's torment. That's your soul being captured by darkness. And only Yah is our deliverer through YAHUSHA HaMashiach. So if you have BPD, PTSD complex, any disorder, I pray that this was a miracle to you. I pray that this gives you like a starting place to what to do. Because our too many people are captive, missing the love, missing the fruit of the Spirit, but captive to the works of darkness. Freedom, we need freedom to abound. We need healing to occur. We need the captives to be set free. We have to surrender our lives. We have to seek for deliverance. We have to consecrate ourselves. That Yahuwah may return back to us. That he allows Yahushua HaMashiach to abound in us. That the Ruach HaKodesh can dwell in a clean temple. Anything outside of that is corrupted. Anything outside of that is defilement. So if you want to be set free, I pray you start there. Much shalom, much ahavah. I love you all, mishpachah. Until we meet again. Again, reading this, talking about this self-examination journal definitely will hold you accountable. Definitely will show you where you are on your walk. So y'all continue to be baraked. Love each and every one of you. Shalom, shalom.